Namaste. Welcome to Flow and Restore Yoga. So we're going to focus physically quite a bit on the hips and mostly the lower body. Today, of course, we'll be warming up everything. Let's grab a couple of blocks, a strap, a bolster, and you may even like to have a blanket nearby. And I invite you to start with your legs in front of you, maybe propping your pelvis up on your folded blanket so that you can adjust the thickness of it, allowing your thighs to turn out in front of you and letting the knees drop lower than your hips. Now, see how close together or far apart is most comfortable for you to cross your shins in front. And if you tend to cross one shin usually over the other shin, then I invite you to switch it up, right? Because our habits in our physical bodies create habits of one side either being tighter or more open than the other side. So let's mix it up and try to invite some balanced openness. And this kind of goes along with our theme. Start with a quote that you may have heard many times before by Sri Krishnamacharya. Yoga is the process of replacing old patterns with new, more appropriate patterns. You might remember that in yoga philosophy and yoga psychology, there's a concept called samskaras, and they are subtle impressions in our minds. Now, these are patterns, deeply ingrained habits of the way we think about things, things that we do physically, or how we speak, or our beliefs, our opinions, and our judgments. And sometimes, a lot of times, these patterns we are not conscious of. They are so deep in our unconscious mind. Yet, now get this, in many neuroscientists currently agree that 95% of our daily choices are driven by our unconscious mind. Isn't that interesting? Things that we don't even know that we're doing on purpose, but we're doing. So yoga is about bringing to light, what are we choosing to think, do, and say, and be more conscientious or intentional of what we think, do, and say, aligning with our inner being. So how do we even know what these patterns are? Because some of them have been passed down by generations of our ancestors and are not even directly taught to us, but they can be embedded in our genes. Or some are patterns we've developed in our own lifetimes of how we've been conditioned in our cultures, in our upbringing, in our religious beliefs, or how we have created defense mechanisms through traumas that we've experienced earlier in our life. And sometimes we continue to carry these patterns that are no longer benefiting our well-being or the well-being of those around us. So it's really important to get to know what these patterns are so that we can decide how we want to step forward, how we want to direct, continue, or redirect the course with these patterns. I love what former President Barack Obama cited in one of his speeches. He said that psychologists call something called confirmation bias. It's that inside our personal information bubbles, our cliques, or those that we usually hang out with, our assumptions, our blind spots, our prejudices are not challenged. They are reinforced. And naturally, we're more likely to react negatively to those consuming different facts and opinions, all of which deepens existing racial and religious and cultural divides. So how much are you consuming in your media or in your surroundings that only perpetuate old beliefs that may or may not be challenged so that you can decide if they're useful? So this is one way that we can start to bring awareness of our patterns. Another way is through yoga. Being mindful when we're moving our bodies and noticing imbalances in our bodies, the patterns in which we move or hold postures and how they feel. Sitting in meditation, paying attention to the tendencies of our mind. What are the kinds of thoughts do we tend to feed and give our attention? So with that, let's begin this practice of self-study called svadhyaya through our physical asanas. As you're sitting still, maybe close the eyes and begin to mentally scan your body, noticing any sensations happening right now. Noticing without judging them. You might observe areas that feel tight today or really open. Notice the flow of the breath without controlling or changing the breath. Sensing how you feel energetically as you begin the practice. Notice your mind. What is your state of mind right now? Notice any emotions present. So we start checking in. This is part of our practice of becoming aware of our patterns. Allow a deep breath in. Slow breath out through the mouth. Inhale a little slower. Once again, out through the mouth. As you continue to deepen your breath, what is one thing right now that you can offer gratitude for? Gratitude can be a powerful way to open our perspective. And is there someone that you would like to dedicate this practice to? This can also help us to open our perspective and remember that we are not in isolation of each other. And together, let's chant 3 Oms. Inhale a little deeper. Start to practice Ujjayi Pranayama, victorious breathing, to help balance energy and calm and focus our minds and bodies. So closing your lips, softly narrow the back of your throat. Create a gentle whispering sound as you slow the breath down evenly in and out through the nose. Let that sound serve as an anchor for your mind, bringing your attention back repeatedly to the present moment. And tuning into that sound, let's make our way into downward facing dog, where I'll invite you to spread the fingers flat at the top of your mat. Make sure that your index fingers are either pointing directly forward or slightly turned out. And then lifting your hips high, press your sitting bones back, lengthen the back of your spine, and relax your neck. Then begin to slowly pedal one foot, heel down into the floor, other heel down into the floor, tuning in to the breath and synchronizing each heel down with each in or out breath, like you're mindfully walking. Now I invite you to as well swivel your hips side to side. So now you're adding a twist to this pedaling of the feet, twisting at the waist, helping to open up your outer hips, sides of your torso, as well as the backs of your legs. Now let the head hang freely You might add softly shaking your head no a few times, or nodding your head yes a few times, staying aware of the sound of your breathing, keeping it as gentle and even as possible. Come back to center with the feet hips width apart, parallel to each other, and bend your knees. Lift your sitting bones as high as you can. Now keep the sitting bones as high as you can and pull your hips back. Actively pull the hips back. Draw the shoulders back, relax the neck, and then let the heels fall towards the ground. Whether or not they touch it, doesn't matter. On your next inhale, sweep your right leg behind you. And as you exhale, bend your right knee and turn the right thigh open at the hip. Circling it outward, exhale, circling it inward towards the belly. And then continue to circle the right thigh at the hip. A few more cycles of breath. If this gets tiring for your shoulders, though it is helping to warm up the shoulders, you can place your left knee on the ground as you do this. You might go in the opposite direction of rotating the right thigh bone at the hip. Now on your next inhale, square the hips, straighten the right leg behind you. Then exhale, step the right foot outside of your right hand and lower your left knee so you're in a kneeling version of lizard lunge. Now take a moment to situate yourself where your right knee is not overbending in front of the right ankle, but it's right on top of the heel. And you may like to have your hands placed on blocks so that you can adjust the height of your hands, where your shoulders can relax down, you can breathe fully, neck is not straining. Now keep your left toes tucked, and as you inhale here, let the hips sink a little, the chest rise a little. Now keep the feet where they are, and as you exhale, lift the left knee, begin to draw your right outer hip back towards straightening the right leg to whatever's comfortable, where you're not rounding your back as you bow inside of your right leg. Let's move through those two postures a few more times with a breath. Inhale, lower the left knee and gaze up. Exhale, lift the left knee, draw the right hip back and fold. Inhale, lower, lizard lunge. Exhale, lift the left knee, wide pyramid pose. Two more cycles of breath. Inhale, lizard lunge. Exhale, pyramid pose. Inhale, lizard. Exhale, pyramid. Inhale, lizard. Exhale, pyramid. Now come back to lizard lunge and step your right knee back. Place your hands on the floor, spread the fingers flat, and return to downward facing dog. Let's warm up the upper body a bit. From downward dog, inhale, glide forward into plank pose, the top of a push-up. Pause here. Gaze at the ground ahead of the thumbs. You can always place the knees down if you need more support. Rotate your triceps towards the back wall. Lift the sides of the belly. And if the legs are straight, firm your inner heels back. One more breath as you lengthen through the center line of your body. Now exhale, lower your knees first, then lower your chest to the ground, hugging the elbows to your ribs, firming the belly in. Then lower your chin, Ashtangasana. Inhale, slide forward, draw the shoulder heads back as you press the tops of the feet down, cobra pose. Exhale, tuck your toes, lift your hips back, downward facing dog. Pause for a full cycle of breath here. Lifting your hips high and back. Inhale, raise your left leg behind you. Now as you exhale, bend your left knee and turn the left thigh open at the hip. Continue circling the leg and then rotate the thigh so the knee comes towards the belly. Inhale. Continue to circle your left thigh at the hip a few more times, going in opposite directions to the breath. If you get tired in the shoulders here, you can set the right knee down as you do this. Just helping to lubricate the hip joint. Warm up the hip socket. Next, inhale, square your hips, straighten the left leg behind you. As you exhale, softly step your left foot on the left side of your left hand. Lizard lunge, lower your right knee to the floor. See that your left knee is directly above your left heel, not in front of it. And maybe grab your blocks and place your hands at the height you need on the blocks so that your shoulders can relax, your breath is still full and calm. Keep your right toes tucked and allow another breath in, opening up the chest, maybe gazing up. Keep your feet where they are, and as you exhale, start to lift the right knee, draw the left outer hip back towards straightening the front leg, just the amount that you can bow inside of the leg without rounding the back. Inhale, lizard lunge. Set the right knee down and look up. Exhale, wide pyramid pose. Lift the right knee, draw the left hip back and fold. 3 more cycles. Inhale, lizard. Exhale, pyramid. Really tack the left outer hip back so you're trying to square the hips forward as you bow. Inhale, lizard. Exhale, pyramid. Inhale, lizard. Exhale, pyramid. Come back to kneeling lizard lunge and step into plank pose this time directly, whether legs straight or knees on the ground. Stack your shoulders right above your wrists, gaze ahead of the thumbs, lengthen the neck, draw the shoulders back. Lift the sides of the belly. If the legs are straight, firm your inner heels back. We're going to come down differently, so 1 more breath in. Keep engaging the belly. As you exhale, glide forward as far as you can. Lower halfway down, grazing the elbows to your ribs in Chaturanga Dandasana. Come all the way down slowly. Plant the tops of the feet down. Inhale, cobra. Draw your shoulders back. Broaden your chest. Exhale, downward facing dog. 3 deep breaths here. Empty the breath and walk or float to the front of your mat into Uttanasana, standing forward fold. Press your hands on your legs, blocks or the floor. Inhale, lengthen the spine forward to Ardha Uttanasana, half forward fold. Exhale again, Uttanasana. Press down to your feet. Inhale, sweep your arms forward to rise with a standing gentle back bend in Urdhva Hastasana. Exhale, join your hands down in front of your chest in Padasana. Connect to your intention for your practice today. What are you cultivating intentionally here? As we also practice observing our own patterns of moving, thinking, breathing, noticing without judging. Inhale, Urdhva Hastasana, roll the shoulders back, gaze up. Exhale, Uttanasana, bow over your legs. Press your fingertips on blocks of the floor. Inhale, lengthen forward, Ardha Uttanasana. Step into your version of plank and decide how you want to lower to your vinyasa, knees, chest, chin, or chaturanga. Inhale to cobra or upward facing dog. Exhale into downward facing dog. Step your feet together at the rear of your mat in downward dog. Inhale, raise the right leg back. Exhale, step the foot between the hands, spin the left heel down. Inhale, cartwheel the arms to warrior 2. Flip the right palm to face up. Exhale, side bend to peaceful warrior. Keep the right knee bent. Inhale, rise. Bring the right forearm to right thigh and sweep the left arm towards the front of the room, extended side angle. Exhale, hands to the floor, lowering down in your choice of vinyasa, knees, chest, shin, or chaturanga. Let's continue the flow. Downward dog, step the feet together at the back of your mat. Inhale, raise your left leg back. Exhale the foot right between the hands, spin the right heel down. Inhale, windmill the arms to warrior 2. Keep the left knee bent, flip the left palm up. Exhale to peaceful warrior towards the rear wall. Inhale to warrior 2. Bring the left forearm to left thigh, right arm towards the front wall, extended side angle. Lower your hands to plank pose and continue down into your version of your vinyasa. Downward dog. Pause as you slow down your breathing and just pay attention to what you notice in your body. 3 breaths here. When you've emptied the 3rd, walk or float to the front of your mat. Inhale, lengthen forward. Exhale, fold. Root down, inhale, rise up. Exhale, hands together at your heart. Bring your feet together to touch for Surya Namaskar B. Inhale, bend your knees together in chair pose. Lean back towards your heels. Exhale, shift forward and fold, Uttanasana. Inhale, Ardha Uttanasana. Step back or float to Chaturanga. Take it through your vinyasa here. Downward facing dog. Inhale, raise the right leg back. Exhale the foot beside your right thumb. Spin your left heel down. Now rise to warrior 1. Exhale, lower through your vinyasa. Downward dog. Inhale, raise your left leg back. Exhale the foot beside your left thumb. Drop your right heel. Inhale, rise to warrior 1. Exhale, lower into your vinyasa. Pause and slow down your breathing. What do you notice in your body here? What do you notice in your mind, in your breath? When the breath feels steady and calm, empty it, then walk or float to the top. Let your feet touch. Inhale, half forward fold. Exhale, fold. Inhale, chair pose. Exhale to rise up. So from here, let's turn to face the wide width of your mat and step your feet wide apart, parallel to each other. Bring your hands behind you to clasp, and let's prepare for a wide-legged forward fold with the hands clasped. So breathe in, roll your shoulders back, lift your chest. Breathe out, hinge forward from your hips, and know that you can bend your knees any amount you might need so that you're not rounding the back, you're lengthening the spine and lifting the shoulders away from the neck while stretching your arms forward, opening the fronts of your shoulders. You might adjust the stance so that your feet are narrower or wider apart as needed. So you might be able to shake and nod the head and loosen the neck. How's your breathing right now? Tilting your weight as far forward as you can, align your hips with your ankles, making sure your hips are not behind your ankles. You want to keep your hamstrings safe. Let's tune into 3 more deep breaths in this cooling, wide-legged forward fold, our transition to our yin part of our practice, the restorative yoga. Then release your fingertips down, walk them to the front of your mat, and pivot to face the front in a lunge, stepping back to downward facing dog. Let's prepare for single pigeon pose. Now, those of you that might have knee issues and know this is not appropriate for your body, you can lie down on your back and take what's called thread the needle instead. Otherwise, from downward dog, turn out your right thigh at the hip and cross your right shin onto your mat in front of your pelvis, lowering to sit with your left leg straight behind you. Take a moment to place your hands alongside your hips and lift your pelvis. Draw your right hip back and rotate your left outer hip forward until both hips are equally facing the front of your mat. If there's a gap between your right glute and the ground, grab your blanket and make it as thick as you need to comfortably close that gap. Then relax your left toes. Now, for those of you, if your right shin is comfortably parallel to the front edge of your mat, you can keep it that way, but flex your right foot as you remain in this position to stabilize your right knee. And placing the hands in front of your right shin, lift your chest as you breathe in deeply. And then take your time bowing forward. You might grab a pillow or a pillow and blocks to rest your forehead or to bear hug, finding whatever props you may need to catch your torso so that your neck and shoulders and head are all relaxed here. And if you're making your way all the way down to the ground, you could also add the other thread the needle for your shoulders, for your upper back. So those of you doing that can flare your right elbow towards the sky as you plant your right fingertips on the upper right corner area of your mat. Then thread your left arm under your right bent elbow with the left palm face up, lowering the left side of your head all the way down, or maybe on a prop, maybe on a block. So make any little adjustments that you may need so that you can be here longer for 2 more minutes of stillness. Listening to the even, sustained flow of the breath while you observe how the sensations in your body might be shifting or lingering. It's calling your attention the most in your body right now. Staying aware of the breath, start to lower your hands to the ground and gently lift your head. Take your time lifting your hips back into downward facing dog. You might shake the right leg up in the air or just give it some movement at the hip. Noticing the difference in how your right and left hips feel right now. And when you're ready, inhale, turn out your left thigh at the hip. Exhale, cross your left shin in front of your pelvis, lower to sit with the right leg straight behind you, right toes tucked. Keep the breath going here, mindfully. Place your hands alongside your hips and lift your pelvis off the ground. Drawing your left hip back, rotate your right outer hip forward. And notice if you need to place something under your left glute to fill the gap. Untuck the right toes. If your left shin is parallel to the front edge of your mat, flex your left foot to stabilize the left knee. Place the hands in front of the left shin and breathe in, lift your chest. And take your time folding forward, noticing if this side feels any different, how you accommodate for any of that difference. If so, you might be using more or less props for the same amount. If it's available and you did so on the first side, you might enter thread the needle, left elbow up as you plant left fingertips towards the upper left corner of your mat. And then slide right arm underneath your left bent elbow, right palm face up, lowering the right side of your head on the ground or on a prop. Then make any last little adjustments so that you can comfortably enough be still. Sometimes there's discomfort, especially in the beginning. Just see what you can hold space for without inducing pain. Let the breath support your practice. Be here for 2 more minutes. So, especially in those moments where discomfort may arise in our physical yoga practice, there can be something revealed there. What's underneath the discomfort? Can you approach it with compassion and curiosity? What is this side of your hips revealing to you right now? Are there any movement patterns or tension patterns to notice? Noticing without judging. Stay aware of your breathing as you slowly begin to lift your head, and one last time return to downward facing dog. When you arrive there, you might give your left leg some movement in the air, encouraging blood flow towards the hip. And then I invite you to pause in stillness for a few breaths in downward dog and just observe anything you feel in your body, sensing the aliveness of your body through the sensations, feeling your pelvis from the inside out. Please lower your knees and bring the inner edges of your feet together to touch. Knees together or apart. Place your arms wherever it's comfortable to rest for about a minute in child's pose, balasana. Let your hips sink down to your heels. Let your shoulders relax back away from your neck. You can also place your head on a prop, if not the ground. Sense the full breath in, inviting space into your body. Feel the outflow of the breath, relaxing your body. And start to roll your spine slowly upright. Place your legs out in front of you, straight in front of you. Now let's prepare for a few breaths in seated forward fold, Paschimottanasana. Set your feet about hips width apart, parallel to each other. Opt to either raise your arms and eventually hold the backs of your legs or clasp your big toes, or use a strap with enough slack so that you're not rounding the back. Placing the strap around the balls of your feet. Press the insteps of your feet forward. If you tend to have lower back issues, you can take a block by the skinny width and hug it firmly between knees and thighs. And this encourages your inner thighs to rotate downward, broadening your sacrum. And at the same time, as you press your sitting bones firmly down, hug your outer hips towards the midline. Lift the spine from the pelvis, breathe in, lift the chest, relax the shoulders back and down, and then hug in the front ribs as you start to hinge forward from the hips. Inhale, pause where you are, plug the pelvis down some more, stretch from the lower spine to the crown of your head. Keep hugging the block or hugging the outer hips in, and then exhale, continue to fold in. Now, if that block is preventing you from finding your full range of motion, you can remove it, of course, but keep firming outer hips towards the midline. Draw the shoulder head slightly back. Keep a little lift in your chest, throat open as you continue for 5 more breaths in Paschimottanasana. Pressing down through the hips, breathe in to slowly rise. Let's come on down to our backs. Lying on your back, bend your knees, hug them into your chest. Cross the right thigh over the left thigh and hug your thighs as close together as you can while splaying your feet wide apart. If your knees feel sensitive, you can flex your feet. And keeping your tailbone down on the ground, head and shoulders down. You can also use a pillow for your head. Reach with your hands to catch hold of your outer feet. Now, if that's not reachable, take hold of your outer shins. If that's not reachable, take hold of the backs of your thighs. As you continue to splay the feet apart, see if you're able to draw the thighs closer to your chest. Breath by breath, still relaxing the shoulders and head and tailbone down. Supine cow face pose. So here in this hip opening posture, we're inviting more openness into the outer hips, glutes, outer thighs. You might feel a stretch in your lower back. Let's continue for 5 more deep breaths here. Now keep the cross of your legs, place your feet on the ground for a moment so you can sweep your pelvis towards the right edge of your mat, preparing for a supine twist. Open your right arm out to the right on the floor. Ground that shoulder, gaze past it, then lift your feet and begin to drop your knees slowly to your left side. Now, making sure the right shoulder stays on the ground, if your knees don't land all the way to the left, you can place your pillow, your folded blanket, your blocks underneath your left leg to support it. Now, we did have a request to help stretch the lower back. If you need to feel that a little more, place your left hand on your right outer hip and press the right outer hip forward, tilting it gently towards the front edge of your mat. A few more breaths. Start to unwind back to center, uncrossing the legs and bringing your pelvis back to the midline of the mat. Hug your knees into your chest. Wrap the left leg over the right as much as you can while splaying your feet apart. Maybe flex the feet to support your knees. Reach for your outer feet, outer shins, or backs of your thighs. Ground your tailbone, shoulders, and head while drawing the thighs towards you and splaying the feet wider apart, or intending to do that for a few more breaths. Supta Gomukhasana. Now keep the wrap of your legs, place your feet on the ground, and slide your pelvis towards the left edge of your mat. Open your left arm wide, grounding the shoulder, gaze past it. Then lift your feet and begin to drop your knees slowly to your right side. Use a prop if you need to catch your outer right leg, making sure your left shoulder stays on the ground. And if you're looking for a deeper stretch in the lower back, place the right hand on your left outer hip and press it away from you, gently tilting it towards the front edge of your mat. How's your breathing here? Start to unwind and draw your bent knees uncrossed towards your chest. This time, in fact, splay the thighs apart. You can come into happy baby or simply splay the thighs apart as you're hugging them towards you. Let's take a few last clearing, cooling exhalations through the mouth, releasing any sound that you may need to release any energy flow that needs to go. So breathe in fully through the nose. Stick out your tongue, open your mouth wide, lion's breath. Couple more, deep inhale. And then slide your legs apart on the floor so the feet are wider apart than your hips distance, rolling your feet inward and outward until they just flop naturally to relax. Turn your palms to face up, slightly away from your thighs, draw the shoulder blades down your back and soften your belly. Then close your eyes. Release control of the breath. Let your awareness expand here in stillness, being present during a few minutes in Shavasana. Lying here with your eyes closed, begin to scan your body again mentally, noticing now how you feel physically. Start with small movements as you listen to how your body wants to begin waking up. And take your time stretching and moving out of stillness, keeping your eyes closed to help tune inward. Gradually turn over onto your right side. Rest your head there for a few moments while you notice your breathing. As you sense the quality of the breath now, how do you feel energetically? Notice the effects of your practice. Then take your time pressing the ground and lifting your body up slowly into a comfortable seated position. And notice, is there a pattern in which you tend to sit that you might play with shifting a bit and just observing? Sit in a way that does feel comfortable for you, in which you can also feel alert, heart space feels open, you feel grounded. And you might stack the right palm on top of the left palm, the center of your lap, palms face up, with your thumb tips gently touching in a mudra that invites the feeling of even-mindedness, inner balance. Left hand representing wisdom, holding the right hand representing compassion. And then maybe close the eyes as we sit for 5 minutes, observing the tendencies or the patterns of our own minds. Let your whole body relax. You might rest your awareness gently on the breath as it naturally comes and goes. If your attention drifts away from the breath, notice where your attention goes. And when that happening is no longer compelling, let your attention soften back to the breath. Notice how you're feeling now mentally and emotionally. And I invite you to take a moment if you feel moved to offer gratitude for anything that you choose to appreciate right now. Remind yourself of what your intention is for today's practice. And stepping outside of the practice, how will you integrate yoga into your daily life? The practice of studying our patterns, becoming more aware so that we can choose, if needed, to replace them with new, more appropriate ones to promote well-being. And remember to whom you dedicated this practice. Together, let's close chanting Om 3 times. Om. Bowing in. The light in me honors the light in you. Namaste.